Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first UFC recap in quite a while. I mean, it has been a long time since we've had a UFC pay-per-view, and this one is special because we are here today on Sunday, day after UFC 266. However, we also have some boxing to talk about, which is going to be very, very fun. And we're going to start with that. So, if you're not a boxing fan with the big boy heavyweights, Anthony Joshua and Oleksandr Usyk, just skip out a few minutes. We'll be getting to UFC in a second, but I had to talk about the new champ is here. Oleksandr Usyk, 117, 112, 116, 112, and then 115, 113. The scores given as Usyk gets the job done. And this now throws everything off, right? This is, I mean, dare I say worst case scenario, but it's kind of funny in a way too, right? Because we're seeing AJ and Fury, they were supposed to be fighting. It was supposed to be one of the biggest fights we've ever seen in boxing. Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury for all the belts, blah, 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 blah. Well, they never signed the deal. The contract was never official. So all of a sudden, we heard Anthony Joshua was fighting Usyk, and we're like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Oleksandr Usyk came up from cruiserweight. He was champ at every cruiserweight division you can think of, undisputed champ. Moves up to heavyweight. Only came into this at like 220 pounds. He was by fight day, he was probably 50 pounds less than Anthony Joshua, and that's not even an exaggeration. But comes into it, everyone's like, he's got a chance. No, he's one of the best boxers that Anthony Joshua has had to face. So here we are, ready for the fight. And wow, Usyk comes out swinging. I'm surprised. One of the judges actually gave Anthony Joshua the first round. I'm looking at the scorecards right now. So one judge gave the first two to Joshua. Second judge gave one apiece. Third judge had both for Usyk. Third round, Joshua wins, or pardon me, Joshua loses on all the scorecards. Fourth and fifth round, the judge who gave the first three to Usyk gave fourth, fifth, and sixth to Joshua. Okay. One of the judges gave two out of those three to Josh. Actually, the other two gave two out of those three to Joshua. So it was all Usyk to start. He came out swinging, and it kind of stunned Joshua. He's like, "Whoa, what am I doing here?" Right? So a lot of people are saying it was even 3-3 after six. I don't think it was. I think it was 4-2 Usyk, but that part didn't matter. What mattered was all of a sudden Usyk started pouring it on once again. After the sixth round, one of the judges here gave the sixth, seventh, or he gave the 7th through 12th to Usyk. This one gave the 9th through 12th to Usyk. Another one gave the 10th through 12th to Usyk. So again, one judge had it 115, 113, which means it was a very, very close fight in his eyes. One gave it 117, 112, which means Usyk had a little more than 116, 112 was the other score. But at the end of the day, guys, Oleksandr Usyk is the new heavyweight champion, and this is just crazy because, like I said, it throws everything off. I don't think we are ever getting Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, and obviously that all depends too, right? Because Fury and Wilder are having their trilogy fight. It is coming up October 9th, T-Mobile Arena, Fury, Wilder 3. So this is 2 weeks away from seeing the trilogy fight. Don't think it should be happening at all. Wilder, remember the last time he said he was tired out because he wore 40 some pounds of gear, so that's why he came out and ended up losing the way he did. But these guys are fighting October 9th, and I got a tail of the tape right here, actually. 32 years old Tyson Fury. Wilder's 35 years old. Wilder, 42 wins, 1 loss. Fury, 30 wins, 0 losses. We know about the draw that happened between these two in their first fight. There is obviously an undercard for this as well, and I just gotta say, the undercard, I didn't watch the whole undercard for this Joshua fight because I was watching the Badger game, but this is, I'm not even kidding, an hour wait, probably, between the cruiserweight title fight and Joshua taking on Usyk. Probably an hour long wait where they just talked, showed a few interviews, talked a little more, went to this person, talked. I mean, when they said 410 walkouts, they meant it. They waited as long as they possibly could. I don't know if there was a reason behind this, but I don't know. They waited a long time. At the end of the day, though, Usyk is the new three-belt heavyweight champion. So 5 minutes in here. Now let's move to the UFC. UFC 266, come and gone, as they say. Prelims, let's just talk about, first of all, Dan Hooker, called out the man. He called out one man who we did not expect. Dan Hooker defeats Narset Hakaparist. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I just caught the end of the fight. But Dan Hooker has called out Beneil Dariush. So that would be a scrap. Hooker calling out Dariush at the end of the prelims. And I was like, ooh, this could be interesting. And then we've got our next fight. Merab Dvalishvili, however you pronounce his last name, but everyone knows him as Merab. He took on Marlon Moraes. This had the wildest first round I've ever seen. Moraes had Merab rocked, right? He was back against the cage. He was barely standing on his feet. I don't know how he did it. But then with about a minute and a half left, Merab takes over, starts pouring in the punches, was doing everything he could, and it was one of the most wild first rounds we've seen until the third round of Ortega Volkanovski, which we'll get to. But then in the second round, Merab gets the job done, a thing of beauty, and that led us right into the main card. 6 seconds left in the first round. Jessica Andrade stops Cynthia Calvillo, her first time ever being stopped. And Andrade, she had a tough little stretch there. Lost to Weili Zhang, lost to Thug Rose, lost to Valentina, but gets back in her winning ways. And now we have a question of, who's next for Jessica Andrade? She was number one, obviously just lost to Valentina. Here she is fighting Calvillo. Does Andrade take on someone like Lauren Murphy, potentially? Is that the next step from here? Because Andrade certainly has not getting another title shot anytime soon against Valentina, but I don't know. I mean, very, very impressive win for Jessica Andrade, the first person ever to stop Cynthia Calvillo in the octagon. And also, we have to say, Jessica Andrade, first ever UFC women's fighter with 20 fights. I mean, it goes way back to July 27th, 2013, where she lost to Liz Carmouche. Then she had a little winning streak going. I mean, she's been a streaky fighter. She has three-fight win streaks in her UFC career. One of them was actually a 4-fight win streak, beating some top names: Claudia Gadelha, Tisha Torres, Carolina Kowalczyk, and Thug Rose. I mean, those are big wins for this girl. That was 2017 to 2019, that win streak. So maybe we're seeing another 3-fight win streak in the making for Jessica Andrade. Huge win for her to open the pay-per-view. And then the fans were a little greedy, and they were quite bored and quite booing all over Curtis Razor Blades, beating Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I thought Blades was going to get the job done and get the win. He did indeed. His eye, I think it was his right eye, swelled shut. I mean, he had no choice but to take this fight on the ground in the third round. He looked very, very good in the first round. Rozenstruik came back in the second, did some good things, but then just couldn't defend the takedown, right? That was really the big thing here. Rozenstruik takes a loss. He's now lost 3 of his last 5, being Francis Ngannou, Cyril Gane, and Curtis Blades. Cyril Gane, the interim heavyweight champ. Ngannou is the heavyweight champ. This guy, he's still got a lot of potential. He's only 12-3. I mean, he's 33 years old, sure, but dare I say he's still young, right? He's still got a lot of room to grow, a lot of things to learn yet, and he's only losing to the best, which is only going to help him in the long run. I should say, as for Curtis Razor Blades, he's won 5 of his last 6, lost early in the year to Derek Lewis, who we knew put on a sleeper against Cyril Gane. Lewis did not do anything in that fight. Only other losses for this man in the UFC, this man being Curtis Blades, he's lost to Ngannou twice. Lost back in 2016, doctor stoppage after the second round. That was also the eye injury they were talking about in the fight. And then he lost to Ngannou once again in 45 seconds at the end of November in 2018. So he's lost 2 to Ngannou, 1 by stoppage, 1 by doctor stoppage. And then he got stopped by Derek Lewis earlier this year. Razor Blades still looking like an absolute threat. You could run back that Derek Lewis fight. It wouldn't be a bad thing to do now. But I also think Stipe and Curtis would be an awesome, awesome fight. I would be all for that one in the heavyweight division. Ruthless Robbie Lawler gets the job done over Nick Diaz 44 seconds into the third round. So much to talk about with this fight. It was so weird. I mean, it was a pretty good fight, though. I'm not going to lie. Robbie Lawler looked great for a guy who's lost so many of his. I mean, he's lost 5 of his last 6 coming into this one. Lost to T. Wood, beat Cerrone, but what is Donald Cowboy Cerrone anymore? Love the guy, but what is he anymore? Then he lost to RDA, Ben Askren, who we know that was Ben Askren's debut fight. Colby Covington and Neil Magny. The Magny loss was kind of bad for Lawler. Wasn't even a main event of the show either. They were on Anthony Lionheart Smith was the main event of that show, but he's still losing to decent fighters, and here he is getting a win over Nick Diaz. I mean, you got to go back to 2014, 2013, 2012. That's when Lawler was doing some of his best work. It seems like that is behind him now. He's 25 and 15, almost 40 years old. Oh yeah, also happy late birthday to Jessica Andrade. I believe it was her birthday yesterday when she got the job done in the octagon. So back to Nick Diaz. This is my first time ever seeing a live Nick Diaz fight. I got into UFC in 2015 at the very end. UFC 193, 194 that time. 193 I was going to buy for my birthday. Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm. In the long run, I wish I did. However, I waited UFC 194. Conor McGregor, one of the guys who really got me into the sport, knocks out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. I was hooked ever since that card. I really didn't know any of the people on the undercard, but here I am blowing $60 on a UFC pay-per-view. And now look, UFC 266. It's almost been 100 UFC cards since that, which is kind of crazy. UFC 200, man, I remember how big of a show that was. So, Nick Diaz didn't look awful. I mean, Lawler tagged him right out of the gate, though. I thought this was going to end in the first minute of the fight. Lawler had him backed up, had Nick Diaz wondering, oh man, what am I even doing here? But then Nick Diaz comes back. He had a lot of good combos. I mean, this was a very, very active fight. I'll try and pull up the numbers. So Diaz finished with 150 significant strikes. Lawler finished with 131, and this only went 2 rounds in a minute. Basically, Robbie Lawler had some very, very good body kicks. One especially where they kept talking about the toe and how it hooked in on the side, and it was all red for Diaz, and that kind of did him in a little bit, but there's no other way to say it, guys. Nick Diaz quit in the third round. He just went down. He kind of got tagged with a little right. They said that's the same right that Nick Diaz hit Lawler with back in 04. And then Lawler got him one more time on the way down. And then Nick Diaz quit. He just kind of laid there. Lawler said, come on, get him up, let's go, let's go. And then referee came over to Diaz. He like kind of held his knee a little bit, so I don't know if we saw like another freak accident. But then after it's over, Lawler goes over, and then Nick Diaz just pops right back up to his feet. And if anyone can understand what he was saying in his post-fight interview, please let me know. It made no sense. He just said the same thing. What is that saying? He said a lot of something by saying a lot of nothing. I don't know how the saying goes, but he said a lot of nothing. That's for sure. He said a lot and said a lot of nothing. That'll be my quote here for Nick Diaz. But yeah, I wasn't a fan coming into this. How all of a sudden fight week they changed it from a welterweight fight to a middleweight fight. Nick Diaz didn't really even look in shape. I mean, he had a little gut going for him down there. It's not like he was representing a six-pack or anything. Robbie Lawler looked jacked. He was ready to fight, and he got the job done at middleweight. Nick Diaz was 185.5, so there was no chance he was going to get down to welterweight. I mean, I know fighters cut a lot of weight, but he obviously had to cut down to middleweight. And I don't know how he would have ever made it welterweight. Obviously, he didn't. And then just the fact that Nick Diaz said this fight never should have took place and he should be fighting Kamaru Usman. Come on, dude. Usman would have took you down, and there would have been no chance. Usman probably would have knocked him out, actually, in the first round. I mean, Diaz had good combinations, like I said, but this was another situation where it's the Diaz's, so Dana White will cater to them whatever they want, and this was a 5-round fight. Thankfully, it didn't go all 5. Lawler gets the job done, and here we go. Valentina Shevchenko, Lauren Murphy. Valentina a minus 1,250 favorite. So you would have to put down $1,250 on her to win 100, and I'm sure someone put that money on her because it's a guaranteed $100. She gets the job done over Lauren Murphy. Murphy had a nice 5-fight win streak coming into this fight, dating back to August 3rd, 2019. Beat people like Roxanne Modafferi, Joanne Calderwood, her most recent win, that being just a few months ago, split decision win on the Izzy and Vittori undercard, but she stood no chance against Valentina Shevchenko, who's been on a mighty fine win streak since that last loss, split decision loss to Amanda Nunes back at UFC 215. I mean, Valentina Shevchenko is untouchable. Amanda Nunes is untouchable. That's the money fight. That's what we need. We need the trilogy. Some people say Valentina got screwed, and even in the first fight, it was very, very close. No matter what these two do, I don't care that it's 2-0 Amanda Nunes. We need the trilogy fight. I don't know when we're going to get it. We've got Nunes and Pena coming up soon. It was supposed to happen last month or 2 months ago, but withdrew due to COVID, I think it was. I don't even remember at this point. So many things happening, and now Aljo's out of the Pure Yan fight that's coming up. So a lot of injuries, a lot of COVID things, whatever you want to say, but Valentina Shevchenko is now beat Lauren Murphy, Jessica Andrade, Jennifer Maia, Caitlin Chikugin, Liz Carmouche, Jessica Ai, Joanna Jacek, and Priscilla Koshira, all since that last loss to Amanda Nunes. Beat Juliana Pena before that second fight against Nunes. Pena, the person that's fighting Amanda Nunes, coming up. As for Lauren Murphy, like I said, it was a fine showing, I guess. I don't know. She didn't even do a whole lot. She's 38 years old. She's now 15-5. Her last loss came against Sierra Eubanks back in 2018. So I still think Andrade and Murphy would be a nice, fun fight to make. That can main event a fight night on ESPN Plus or something, you know? Two top flyweights looking to get back up there and try and face Valentina again, but what's the point when it's just the same result over and over? And I'm not saying anything bad about Valentina. She's doing everything she needs to win these fights, and good for her. That's all you need to do at the end of the day. So that's that. Knocked her out in the fourth round, got the job done. Our main event, Alexander Volkanovski, Brian T. City Ortega, the tough coaches. The Ultimate Fighter was back. I didn't watch any of it. It's on ESPN Plus, which I do have actually, but I didn't watch it. And I was rooting hard for Brian Ortega. You know, I wanted this guy to win. I'm a big T City fan. He's been on such a streak coming into this. If just literally all bangers, all most of his wins are always by stoppage. He had the Korean Zombie fight late last year, which went to a decision, but I mean, it's hard to stop the zombie, right? So Volkanovski not stopped Max Holloway, but beat Max Holloway twice. The second fight should not have been a win. Max Holloway won that fight, got screwed. Still, Volkanovski has 4 decision wins in a row. 5 of his last 6 were by decision. That going back to Darren Elkins. He stopped Chad Mendes in 2018, but that's a deflating Chad Mendes. Aldo fight went to decision. Both Holloway fights went to decision, and now Ortega fight went to a decision. It seemed like there were certainly times where Volkanovski was going to get the job done and stop T City Ortega. However, let's talk about the third round, right? Boom! A straight right from Ortega drops Volkanovski to his back. Ortega immediately goes into a guillotine. I thought this was it. It had to have been over at this point. Somehow Volkanovski survived the guillotine. He didn't sweat it. He was able to slip out somehow. Later in the round, Ortega has his signature triangle choke locked in. Boom. This is it. There is no way Volkanovski's getting out. He did. Somehow he got out of this. This third round is one you have to watch. The first round of Merab and Marlon Moraes, and the third round of Ortega and Volkanovski. Must watch. These were things of beauty, and Ortega was kind of deflated. And ever since that third round, you know, I wouldn't say he was deflated, but he lost a lot of energy going for those submission attempts. I do think that the judges were big wrong on this. I thought Ortega won the first round, and I thought Ortega won the fifth round. I think he looked great in that 5th round, and he really came out swinging in the final 30 seconds, couldn't get the job done. But I don't know how people were saying 50-45, 50-44. I think someone had it 49-46, but I don't even remember. I was shocked. Or maybe I don't think they did, actually. I think everyone had it 5 rounds for Volkanovski, which I couldn't make sense of. It didn't make sense to me how you didn't give Ortega a single round. Even the second round was pretty close, but I thought for sure he'd have the first and fifth. That also brings me back to the Joshua fight. I just had a feeling someone would score the fight for AJ because that's how boxing is. And unless you like stop the champ, if it goes to a decision, you got a slim chance of winning. But no, they all gave it to Usyk in that. And yeah, I was shocked when I heard the scorecards here. Obviously, I knew Volkanovski was winning this fight, but just seeing Ortega didn't get really the benefit of the doubt at all, I don't know, kind of blew my mind. So that's that, guys. UFC 266 in the books. We now look ahead to 267. This is the confusing one because I think it's on ESPN or ABC. Like, it's free. It's like a pay-per-view, but it's not because it's overseas. I mean, I don't know what's happening with this card now that we lost Aljo and Piero Yang. The second fight, we know what happened in the first one with that illegal knee from Yan. Aljo won the belt, wasn't happy with it, didn't want it, threw the belt down, but Aljo's the champ as of right now, and he's actually out of this fight now. So our main event, Jan Blachowicz, Glover Teixeira, huge, huge, huge light heavyweight fight. Marcin Tybura and the big heavyweight taking on Alexander Volkov. That is going to be something else on this card. Ribas and Yandriba on the undercard as well. Ricardo Ramos will be fighting on this card. So quite a few names on this one that some people will know, and we're just going to have to wait and see. There's a big light heavyweight fight on the undercard as well. 7 seed against the 8 seed in the top 15. So that wraps it up, guys. We got a huge week of the podcast coming up. Episode 29 tomorrow. We talk a little golf is actually discussed, but a lot of football, some Brewers as well. Then this Wednesday, we've got a guest from NASCAR coming up on the podcast. That's going to be huge. And then another big guest next Wednesday. And then Drew's College Athlete Spotlight. If you haven't checked that out, there is so much going on for the podcast. Our shirts are in. We've been passing them out. I've only got a few more left to give. Can't wait. This is awesome. I mean, we're putting out so much content right now in a time where I don't know if we'll even be able to continue, but we are doing so many things, and I love every single second of it. So glad I got a UFC recap out once again. We got to wait a whole month. I don't think I'll do a Fury Wilder recap, but that's a huge fight coming up on the 9th of October. Don't forget, Jordan Drew _Sports Crew, Jordan Drew the Sports Crew on Facebook, Jordan Drew the Sports Crew on YouTube. We're everywhere. I'm Jordan Law _PXP on Twitter. Thank you all for listening to my UFC 266 and AJ Usyk recap. Thank you all for listening to Jordan and Drew the Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.